It's not often you go to a conference and you see a keynote and an hour and 15 minutes later, you realize your life is forever changed. And that happened earlier this year. I was at Keller Williams' annual conference called Family Reunion. And it was the second to last day. And this guy named Ed Mylett was speaking. And I had heard of Ed Mylett. I knew he was like an entrepreneur and did different trainings. And he has a podcast and a show. But I didn't know his story, right? There was probably close to 15,000 people at that conference keynote. And I'd be shocked if there was a dry eye in the room. The way in which he spoke about perseverance and overcoming adversity and the power of genuine relationships. The book that we're going to talk about in a moment, the power of one more and what that actually means to him. And his relationship with his father, with his son, and other people. It was just such a moving conversation and one that, frankly, I think we should have more of. And that keynote, when he talked about the power of one more, whether you're in the gym or you're telling your spouse or significant other or a child that you love them, there's power in doing one more rep. There's power in telling somebody genuinely you love them one more time. And you may not notice those things overnight, right? You don't go to the gym and go, yeah, I have a six pack after one session. But after 10 years of dedicated discipline of going to the gym 5 days a week and having the nutrition and doing one more rep, you will. And it's kind of like, I've used this analogy before, but as I was sitting there watching him just pour his soul to this room, and he was talking about pain he had overcome and relationships that had come and gone, I realized that the power of one more is in everything. He has this book that he's now brought out called The Power of One More. And I'm going to highlight a couple chapters and a couple examples of why I think it's so powerful. And hopefully you'll be inspired to pick up the book or give it a listen if you haven't heard of it or seen it yet. So the reason I chose this book is I think in 2023, specifically like spring, second quarter, 2023, I think the challenges are going to get real. I'm not saying that people haven't had challenges with COVID and building a business over the last 5, 10, 15 years. Life's always hard, right? Life's not fair. It's hard. But I think, with what the federal government's doing and the feds with raising interest rates and, at the timing of this recording, we have 2 banks that have failed in the United States, 1 in Europe. I think people are on edge a little bit. I think there's a new hard that's coming. And I'm not saying that to scare anybody. I'm telling you because life is hard. And what's good goes bad. What's up goes down. And I think we're moving into a period of time in history where skills, relationships, and working effectively on the right things, being more effective with your time, being more effective with the people you associate yourself with, I think it's going to matter more than it's mattered in a long, long time. I'm seeing it consistently around businesses I coach and consult. What was easy is now harder. The objections have changed. The money and liquidity is not what it was. I have entrepreneurs asking, how can they make payroll? They're asking me questions in our coaching calls like, should I, double down on my marketing and my growth goals, or should I cut my payroll in half? So those are conversations I hadn't had over the last 5-6 years, and I'm having them weekly today. So that's where the power of one more comes in. By surrounding yourself with the right people, by having the right things in your daily schedule, the right activities, the right habits, the right focus, I really believe that you can not only survive the next year or two, but thrive. And the cool thing about this is who you become through temporary pain, it's an entirely different person on the other side. And that's a powerful thing. You may experience pains and struggles that we haven't seen over the last, maybe ever in your lifetime. But if we can survive that now, the person you become on the other side of that mountain is pretty phenomenal, because you all have, one of Ed Mylett's quotes he said from his speech was, you all have a 100% track record of getting through your worst day. That's powerful, right? Like, even if it's your worst day and you're frustrated and you just feel like nothing's going right. Actually, I was kind of getting set up on the set here today, and I left the house 12 minutes later than I wanted to this morning. And so that put me a little bit behind, right? But nothing that wasn't groundbreaking. And I get into the room and I get situated and I'm getting dressed and I'm getting organized. And, my team's giving me last minute reminders. And we had our biggest interview to date today. So I wanted to do well, right? I wanted to perform well at a high level and be prepared. And as I moved my chair one final time to get into motion, my iPad screen cracked under the weight of the leg. I snapped my iPad screen. That's how my Monday morning started. Yeah, I choose to not let that, capture my thoughts or paralyze me, right? It's an iPad screen. Move on. Get somebody to fix it. Move on. I wasn't going to let that little unfortunate thing that happened destroy my interview, right? I had worked for months to get this interview ready. So just an example of being able to say, listen, I'm going to move on and focus. So let's get into a couple chapters from this book, The Power of One More. So the first is it talks about the job you live, the money you have, the people in your world, right? This is in the first 30 pages of the book. And what it does a nice job of doing is giving an analogy. And what it says is this: you can't have a 100-degree life, like degrees in a house, right? You can't have a 100-degree life if your temperature or thermostat is set to 75. And it goes deeper. It says with the people in your world, with your bank account, with your career, if you are around 75-degree activities, people, environments, there's no way, I don't care how hard you burn, right? How hot you are, you won't stay at 100 degrees. You'll always regress to 75. And that's why, at Forward Focus, we talk about commitment. We talk about grit and stick-to-itiveness. Well, that's a part of that, because true leadership, true commitment and success is beyond the emotion of a goal that you've committed to. When you actually have to say day in and day out, I'm committed to the activities, I'm committed to the habit. When the emotional decision to commit to a goal passes, that is ultimate success. It's getting really good at the daily boring things to win. So if you're in an environment where your buddies go out every week and the bar bill is high or the cigar tab is high, or you're just going to fancy restaurants and eating steaks or wines, but you also have a goal to save $500 every single month into your Roth 401k, there are people that have to make a decision. Do they want the steak and the bar trips out today, or do they want that 401k? See, they're living the 75-degree life today, but they're avoiding that 100-degree opportunity by taking some of that income and saving it. So their finances are operating at a 75 level when it deserves 100. If you're looking up and listening right now saying, man, I'm not where I want to be in life. I don't have the connections I want. I don't have the job I desire. I don't have the income I want and feel I deserve. Have your people changed? Have your relationships developed? Have you expanded your mind? When you're not achieving at your highest ability in anything, you're missing a relationship. And I'll go one step further. You may be missing a relationship, but there may be relationships that aren't serving you anymore. And that's what the book talks about as well, is your inner tribe, being able to level yourself up. Again, if your goal is to get to 100 degrees and you're hanging out with 75 or 60 or 50 degree people, how do you get to 100 degrees? You don't. And so every day that you aren't working towards that 100 degrees, living your fullest life, let's call it, you're regressing back to status quo. And so that's what the book kind of starts in that theme. And then it moves into this whole notion and concept of living in the matrix. Now, even if you haven't seen the movie Red Pill, Blue Pill, right, and all that, you'll get this point. We all have what's called a RAS, Reticular Activating System. It's at the base of our brain here. And so the moment you have a thought, the moment you think something, that triggers an emotion. And that emotion gives you a feeling. And those emotions and feelings trigger chemicals in your body to make an answer, to make a response to the stimuli in your world or environment. So I'll give you an example. Think about this morning when you woke up. What did you do? What was the first thing you did? You opened your eyes and did what? For a lot of us, it's grabbed our phone. We do it without even thinking. It's autopilot. And so you touched your phone before maybe you touched your loved one. And so then you get up, and if you have animals, you let the dog or the cat out, they have to use the restroom, and you made your way over to the coffee maker. And you made your cup of coffee. And you let the dog back in, and you have to feed the dog, and you probably grabbed that cup of coffee and sat in the same spot that you sit every morning for your morning routine. See, that's a program. And until we have new thoughts to interrupt that RAS, the reticular activating system, you're going to live the same life on day in and day out on repeat. So this notion of the matrix is that we can predict the future, because a lot of what we do every day is what we did the day before. You probably took the same route to work. You probably picked out one of 20 outfits that you wear to work consistently. So ways in which you can interrupt that is important. So maybe you read 5 pages before you even touch your phone. That's 5 more pages you read today than yesterday. Maybe you rub the back of your spouse or loved one before you turn over and grab your phone. Maybe you sit in a different chair each morning to just have a new vantage point of your house. Maybe you take a different commute to work. The point is that you need to keep your RAS fresh, because in life and business, we can get into autopilot in the people we see every day and in the people we interact with. And that can help us or hold us back of staying at a certain level and not level up. Final thing I'd like to share from this book that I really enjoyed was in chapter 8, he had 40 plus questions to ask yourself. And these were tough questions. I mean, they weren't like, what's your favorite color, right? It was like, when is the last time you felt you reached your fullest potential in something? What's one area that you want to focus on improving that would lead to a better version of you? What's a relationship that you need to cut out of your life? Who's somebody that you need to talk to more, either in frequency or in time? I mean, these questions get you thinking. And so I get asked quite often by different entrepreneurs and leaders from various industries I coach and consult. Great questions lead to great answers. And so if you can work great questions into your everyday with yourself and others, you'll live a better life. So one last thing outside of some of those chapters we reviewed, he ends the book with this whole notion and idea of the power of one more day. And specifically, his father was an alcoholic, and for years battled with drinking and choosing the bottle over his family, over his son. And because of the compassion and love of a stranger, his father found AA and was able to commit to just being sober one more day. And so he turned to his son, Ed, and they were driving, and he said, Ed, I'm going to give it one more chance, one more try. I'm going to be sober. And Ed said, you're going to be sober for life? And he goes, no, I'm going to be sober one more day. And tomorrow when I wake up, I commit to being sober one more day. And the day after, one more day. You get the point. It was one day at a time, a commitment to choosing his family, choosing love for his son over the love for that bottle. And if he could just wake up every day and recommit to doing one more day, in this case of sobriety, he could live his ultimate life. And he did that. And that was actually the inspiration and reason for this book. Ed, through all these different chapters, he talks about the power of one more. And so if you're not living your ultimate life, if you feel like there's just something that you could be doing to level up your approach in life and business, your relationships, your faith, I really recommend that you check this book out, either in Audible or go to his website and get it. The book has transformed the way in which I think, the way in which I approach, and how I focus on the people in my world. And I'm so grateful that I was able to see Ed Mylett and read his book and apply some of these principles into my life and business. And I hope it does the same for you. So if you found value in today's episode, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss a lesson to be the leader that you deserve to be. Until next time, lead on.